tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
This Estonia's Kalas, that's her name. She's a fierce Russian critic. Wow, finally. Finally a fierce Russian critic for once. She is now the new European Union foreign policy chief. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that she is so clumsily and evasively full of shit that I'd say she qualifies to be head of the Secret Service. But
she could be head of the new Ghostbusters.
And why do I say that? Watch this. So she's now the top diplomat, right? So she's now the EU foreign policy chief. And listen to what the European Union's foreign policy chief has to say about negotiating with a nuclear power to end a war. Watch this.
To me, it's the question, why talk to him? I mean, why?
She means Putin. Why talk to Putin?
To me, it's the question, why talk to him? I mean, why?
That's a good point. Why should she talk to Putin, seeing as how she's not Ukrainian and also Ukraine isn't part of the European Union? So it's really none of her fucking business, right? Of course you why negotiate with the nuclear power that's winning the war that it's in right now? Why negotiate with them?
Boy, she's like the new Ursula Milfness or whatever that German was they got rid of.
To me, it's the question, why talk to him? I mean, why? He's a war criminal. I mean, I'm a lawyer by profession, and I looked up...
Yeah, you're all war criminals, so now you have something in common.
You guys would really like each other if you gave each other a chance.
The definition of war crimes and genocide, for that matter. And
whoa, don't get into she looked up the definition of war crimes and genocides. Wow. Hey, remember, Israel is ethnic Enzinclay, the Azagay. Hello? Okay.
Is the willingness to get rid of, part of the nation or a whole nation. And he has expressed this will, his intention. He has done steps for this, and he's a war criminal. And if you say that, there is no outcome of talking to him, then why talk to him? Because I don't see into his head, of course, and into Kremlin's walls, but I feel that if everybody is constantly calling him, he doesn't get the message that he's isolated. So if we want to get him the message through that actually you're isolated, don't call him.
They applaud this shit.
Send him a message that I'm not talking to him.
Yes, tell him we're not talking to him.
If you see him, tell him I'm not talking to him.
Why would you talk to him? Because that's how you end wars.
You're a lawyer. You just said you're a lawyer.
Do some
lawyering.
So what this tells you is that a guy like Reid Hoffman made sure she got installed. So a billionaire donor person who makes money off of war.
Yeah.
And sells probably energy, natural gas to Europe. They made sure she got installed in this position because they don't want this war to end. Just remember what Julian Assange told us. The wars are not meant to be won. They're meant to be ongoing. And so they can keep transferring money from the treasuries of governments into the pockets of the war machine and the international security state. That's what this is about. So
then you'll beg, Jimmy, for a UBI. That's when you'll beg for a UBI, because now you got nothing.
So this woman is installed by an oligarchy that's running the Western fucking world, and it's run by billionaires.
Look at those guys.
And that
I imagine them all in red robes, gathered around an owl and a fire and whatever the hell they do.
So did you hear the craziness she just said? Why talk to a guy who's the head of a nuclear power that's in the middle of winning a war? Well, he's a war criminal. Every president in my lifetime is a war criminal. Right now, Joe Biden is funding a genocide. The definition you just looked up. Would you talk to him? Okay, so you know she's just a lying full of. She's clearly another out of nowhere figure that was actually shat from some dark anti-universe mirror into this world to bring her completely opposite from rationality or decency take on politics. Was she trained in Israel?
It's like in Estonia. I mean, she's from Estonia, so that's clearly where it's like a factory to get more of those left leaders, for the EU.
And you want to see how horrible she actually is? So you remember I showed you Colonel McGregor said that the people who want this war in Ukraine, they have this idea in their head. They thought Russia was actually weaker than it was. So right now they're in the middle of splitting up Ukraine and handing it over to BlackRock and Vanguard, which they're doing, and Bill Gates and people like that. They thought they could do the same thing to Russia, that they could break up Russia into smaller parts and then sell it off to Vanguard and BlackRock and all those things.
Well, it worked in America.
That's right. That's what they thought they could do. And now that's what Colonel McGregor said. Well, here she's just going to tell you. The EU's new chief, this is from Arnaud Bertrand, the EU's new chief diplomat, who doesn't seem to understand the very concept of diplomacy. Why talk to Putin? Why? He's a war criminal. Well, maybe because that's literally what your job is, trying to talk to warring parties in order to bring an end to a war that's ruining the union you represent. Because right now the European Union is paying way higher prices for energy than they would be since we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, and it's killing their economies.
But is it weakening Russia, Jimmy?
Right. Who's a bigger war criminal? The side that's ready to negotiate and end to the war, or the side that insists it needs to keep it going without end in sight, no matter how many lives are lost in the process? So that's what her position is. That's what Joe Biden's position is. The person who wants to negotiate and end the war is Putin. So, and by the way, yes, the same goes for. So here's the part I wanted to show you. Here she is, the deranged, virulently Russia-phobic Prime Minister of Estonia and the new Foreign Minister of the European Union. She wants to break up Russia. She just says it. That thing that Colonel McGregor said, that you thought he had inside knowledge, well, now she's just saying it out loud. I think if you have more like small nations, it's not a bad thing if the big power is actually much smaller.
If you would have more like small nations, it's not a bad thing if the big power is actually much smaller. So,
well, I'm glad Estonia is not bigger. I can tell you that.
Well, good thing Estonia is smaller, because look how small it is. It turned you into a moron.
I mean, she really is a chick that should have been born and bred to be one of Trump's wives, but for some reason she's in charge of a country.
She wants to break up Russia. Hey, they're not the Beatles.
Yoko.
So that's her big. And why is that a horrible thing? Well, this is an insane thing to say, not only because it makes winning the war all the more existential for Russia. Now Russia has to make sure it crushes, because if it shows weakness, and you guys are going to come and try to break up their country. And by the way, Russia, who, as a reminder, have the most nuclear warheads in the world. But also
hypersonic missiles we don't have.
And they have hypersonic missiles, which we don't have.
They don't even need to break into the nukes. They can hit us with conventional weapons that you can actually use.
That we can't stop. But also because it betrays a stunning lack of understanding of geopolitics and history. It would absolutely be a bad thing if Russia were to be broken up, because it's basic common sense that the more divided a geographical region is, the more unstable it actually becomes.
BlackRock. It sounds like an ad for BlackRock.
It does sound like an ad for BlackRock.
The stunning lack of knowledge part sounds like a good campaign for Harris slogan. A stunning lack of knowledge about history and geopolitical events.
So there is a reason why both world wars started in Europe and why the Middle East is consistently the world's most explosive region. In fact, U.S. officials such as Jack F. Matlock, the last U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union, are on record saying that one of the United States' objectives at the end of the Cold War was to prevent the breakup of the Soviet Union, and the fact that it eventually did break up was, in his words, a defeat for Western policy.
Wow.
This is because they understood full well it'd create newfound geopolitical tensions between the new states, and that, of course, proved correct.
Wow, sounds like Jack F. Matlock wasn't in on the plan all the way. Sounds like he was only in on the plan where you think America's a country and not a thing for the George H.W. Bush New World Order.
He goes on, he finishes his tweet by saying, this is also, incidentally, the prime reason why the European Union was created with the support of the United States. Because the more broken up a region is, the more unstable it is. These are the psychopaths. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
What?
On YouTube. I don't think I'm allowed to call people that name. Or
oligarchs?
Oligarchs. I don't think I'm
call them psychopaths?
I'm not allowed. I don't think so. I have to retract and denounce myself.
Why call them cunts?
That she's not one. She's just acting like one.
How would you even be in a leadership position without being at least a secondary psychopath?
Right? So here, Lindsey Graham, I just want to remind you the kind of people, the mentality of the people who actually are running things. Here's him saying that Vladimir Putin cannot be allowed to access that money. So Ukraine has trillions of dollars worth of critical minerals in their country. Vladimir Putin cannot be allowed to access that money and those resources because he will share it with China. So this isn't about anything, again, except money and natural resources. Here it is.
They're sitting on $10 to $12 trillion of critical minerals in Ukraine.
So again, they never brought this up for 2.5 years. All of a sudden, now we've got another reason to stay in the war.
Right.
They're sitting at $10 trillion of natural minerals. So that's what this is about?
Just sitting there?
Why can't we just do regular business deals? Here we go.
It could be the rich. They're sitting on $10 to $12 trillion of critical minerals in Ukraine. They could be the richest country. And
so that's what this conflict's really about. It's not about the Ukrainian people or their freedom or Crimea or the Donbass. That's what this is really about. He's
liberating their minerals.
That's right.
All of Europe. I don't want to give that money and those assets to Putin to share with China. If we help Ukraine now, they can become the best business partner we ever dreamed of. That $10 to $12 trillion of critical mineral assets could be used by Ukraine and the West, not given to Putin and China. This is a very big deal how Ukraine ends. Let's help them win a war we can't afford to lose. Let's find a solution to this war. But they're sitting on a gold mine to give Putin $10 or $12 trillion of critical minerals that he will share with China is ridiculous.
So the weird old lady's right. Better for every Ukrainian to die in a losing war than to let Russia share minerals with China.
Who is this again? J.D. Vance's Meemaw?
And
what does he mean, by the way, give them to Russia? He said, first he goes, they're sitting on minerals. I don't want to give them to Russia. Well, they're not your minerals, dude. They're Ukraine's. What do you mean you don't want to give the... Oh, you mean someone's going to steal their shit? And if we don't steal it, we're basically letting Russia steal it, you psychopath?
That's what that psychopath is saying.
I don't want to give that to Russia by not taking charge of their stuff that does not belong to us.
Ukraine already had an economic deal with Russia when Yanukovych was president. That was much more beneficial to the people of Ukraine. So now he's coming and saying we're gonna have to do a war, get a million people slaughtered, so we can do a economic deal with Ukraine. That's what
people are sitting on our minerals, dude.
Yeah.
Why are you sitting on our stuff, guys?
Over to Steph.
Okay. Reid Hoffman on Make Believe Media. What a dickhead. Alpine Lake. Monopolization is so bad anymore that it's hard to even get parts to build anything that isn't constructed by some major corporation. Vienticus Prime. Hi, Kurt. Oh, I read that from Jones. Thank you, Jones. Hannister, oil is definitely one of our problems. More specifically, our belief that we need to live in a machine society, and that depends on machines for everything is either healthy, wise, or sustainable. Hannister.
Okay,
Back to Jim.
What, are you going to use magic?
Sure, it's a common ocean, perpetual emotion, but I don't need the comfort of any lies. I've seen the ending, and there's no ascending rise. Oh, back when I was younger, was told by other youngsters that might well be sunset beneath the earth. 'Cause I don't see what they see when they're staring at me. I see a window, a limit's a limit, and not at all. Sure.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace, soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish woolly man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison. But they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators. And they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running this system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just MOVE babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, making a quick buck, I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. How long are people going to sit back and beg, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years, all you've gotten is a slap in the face. All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.